job, a lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us here. I have an opportunity to share with you that continued love of support and giving as we welcome friends from our community to tell you about something happening today and tomorrow. Then 1 o'clock, an entrepreneur, bird and farmer, Mr. Kerr Lawrence will join us in the studio for another discussion. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331.
Talk Today is proudly brought to you by Pirates Fest 2022. Stay in the know. Get the full event lineup at piratesfestcayman.com.
And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village. Convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. And thanks for joining us. And it's always a pleasure to have the good company of Mr. Martin Victor. Thank you for sitting with us. And many times as we chat, we recognize how much we have in common as people. How much love we have for each other as we share. And through you and Arthur and Consulate, well, thank you for bringing along both Miss Mila and Philip. But first, Martin, good afternoon to you.
Yeah, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Dwayne. Thank you again for the kind invite and taking the time and giving the space. The Austrian Consulate is organizing a pop-up fundraiser for the Ukraine. It was organized on a very short notice and with the greatest support of the Ukrainian constituencies. And what we are raising is we are raising funds to provide winter clothing for first responders. So what are first responders? First responders are this group of people or brigade which go in as soon as a bomb explodes somewhere in a building. They go in and they rescue whatever is to be rescued. They are the one who put the rubbles away. They're the one who are trying to restore the infrastructure. So obviously in this kind of times where 40% of the electrical power in Ukraine is gone through the bombardment, very important. And these persons, we're sponsoring for them winter clothes. I was approached from them if there's an opportunity to do a fundraiser, do a donation to them. I said, yeah, sure, we can do that. There's approximately 150 ladies and gentlemen who are looking for that, and we're going to provide them, God willing, complete uniforms, including the boots and hats and gloves, whatever comes to it. Because especially in these times of the year where it's freezing cold in Ukraine, it's just needed. And sure, a lot of people, a lot of nations giving a lot of money to different institutions in Ukraine, but obviously keep in mind some small organizations like the first responders are falling through the roster. So that was the idea behind it, and I couldn't have done this with the help from Philip, from my son, who was his birthday yesterday, but he still came out and helped us, and for Mila, who is the godmother of the Ukrainians, I understand.
What a title.
She will give a better rundown what's happening and how we're going to use everything and how it's organized. Anyway.
Thank you, Martin. Milo, pleasure. Welcome. The godmother he gave you. Huh?
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, Dwayne, on the air. Really appreciate this opportunity, and thank you for Martin. I don't know if I really earned that title, but I will take it as a great compliment. My name is Mila Martin. I'm a tax director here at KPMG. Lived on the island for 8 years now. I love Cayman. I migrated here from U.S., but I was born and lived till about 18 in Ukraine. My family is still there. My mom is in central Ukraine. My brother currently is a major with the Ukraine Armed Forces, fighting in the east with his unit trying to liberate the occupied territories of Ukraine. So as you can imagine, the war in Ukraine is very personal for me. It's very close. It causes me a lot of daily anxiety and strain. Nevertheless, just like many Ukrainians all around the world, we are mobilized to help the effort, to help the people of Ukraine who are still there fighting every single day, dying every single day. They haven't chosen to be in this situation, right? The war came to their doorstep, and they are placed in a death or life scenario every single day, and only Ukrainian victory, complete Ukrainian victory, will end this. I am certain of that. While the enemy ramps up the heartbreaking, devastating, crushing terror on Ukrainians and civilians every single day, we are here together, united with the rest of the people in the world to help them through this ordeal, to make sure that they withstand this unfairness and are able to go on, recapture their territories, take their country back, and restore the peace. And ultimately, that is the wish and desire of every single Ukrainian. Unfortunately, the war continues. There's destruction every single day. And this is the message that I want to get across to people. Even though in the news we see a lot of donations happening to Ukraine, right, from our Western partners and European allies, a lot of those money are spent on the military effort, as they should, because, as I said, only complete Ukrainian victory will end this horrifying crisis. There is a lot of bombing and destruction happening on a daily basis, and there's a lot of humanitarian cost that still needs support of people around the world. And these kind of grassroots campaigns, they're great because no money is spent on bureaucracy, advertisement, anything like that. The money goes directly to people who needs them. And this is why I'm very passionate about what Martin has started here. And I just could not be indifferent and set aside, being Ukrainian and having my family there, right? I jumped on the cause right away, and I'm very, very grateful that he is doing it. I'm very, very grateful to all the people in Cayman. In my 8 years living here, I've experienced a lot of Cayman kind, and it moves me to the depths of my soul, how much support I receive from everybody, my colleagues, my friends, my family here. It's truly amazing. Cayman is one special place.
Thank you. I think that's what makes it special. We have so many people who come together, who recognize when there is a need, we stand in the gap, and rarely is there an agenda or an ulterior motive. But for tomorrow, is it today as well?
Yes.
Just quickly for Martin, before I ask Martin. Before I ask Martin, Milo, just quickly.
Yeah.
Where?
Absolutely. This is a really good question, so I will slow down so everybody hears what I'm saying.
You talk fast, right?
Foster's Camana Bay. Please come all day today. There are volunteers there right now, right this moment. We love to come and talk to you, but there are people standing there collecting donations. You cannot miss it. Blue and yellow balloons. There's lots of Ukrainian colors. We have a little treats and a little ribbons for people to pick up as they donate to show their support. So please come. We're going to be there all day today until 8 p.m. and half a day tomorrow in the afternoon from 2 p.m. until the closure of 8 p.m. So these 2 days at Foster's in Camana Bay. Thank you, everyone.
I just want to jump in quickly. Yes. And also, when you're donating in CI, it goes a lot further because the CI is a stronger currency than the euro. So that little bit in the exchange rate really helps us get more supplies for the emergency responders, who honestly, they're fighting for their lives. I mean, these are neighborhoods they grew up on, and they want their grandchildren to see one day, right? So it's crazy to see the war from an outside perspective, right? Because Cayman has never been in a war before. We don't know. I mean, our biggest war was Hurricane Ivan, and so to see this and to see, I can't fathom what they're going through right now. But I do believe that we citizens in the Cayman Islands, we do help out our neighbors a lot. We've helped out our neighbors when they get bombarded with storms. We just help out, and that's just what we do, and we're great at it. It's part of who we are as a people, I would say. And so I encourage everyone to go out to Foster's today and tomorrow and just donate anything you can. Like I said, the CI is a great, strong, nice, strong currency, and it will give us that extra purchasing power to buy supplies, much needed to maintain let's just help these people. It's just bad, man. I don't know. My heart goes out for them. You just wake up one day and your town is just getting struck, bombs out of the sky, and for what? It's I don't know, my heart really goes out for the people of Ukraine, and I do believe we, the people in the Cayman Islands, even though we're a small country, we really can help out. Because Ukraine, we may not know a lot about it, but it plays a significant part in the world. I mean, it's, for that side of the world, it's one of the biggest producers of grain, and if that goes down, you're looking at global famine, So situation is critical, and I do believe we can be a part of the solution.
As I look at one of our messages from our listeners, sharing two things, and I picked up on your last point. Cayman itself may not have been in war, but the spirit of giving and charitable construction has been there, and we as a people from even World War I sort of need to champion democracy and freedom. So this is another way. We do have a caller joining as we go to the phones. Hey, good afternoon, welcome, thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, and how are you all doing today?
Very well, man.
Very well, thank you. How are you?
All right, good, thanks.
That's good.
I really empathize with you guys, and I hope you have a lot of success in your fundraising.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I wanted to add also, I think Jean was starting to touch on it, though. I just wanted to sort of correct your point that we don't know much about war, because we have had people who have died and fought and died in World Wars I and II, well, especially World War II, but also Vietnam, Korea. So the local people are very familiar with, fighting for democracy or fighting for families and everything else. So I think we can relate to what you're saying, but just wanted you to know that Ivan wasn't the worst thing that happened to us. We were in a state of war as well.
See, if today wasn't a Friday and this wasn't a serious topic, I would say political parties, but I won't do that.
Oh, no. But I have to say that because, remember, today is also just a couple of weeks away, right?
Exactly.
So we don't want to discredit the veterans and all the sacrifices that were made. But we do understand what warfare is about.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate
Good
it.
luck and God bless.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Martin. But with that, and Martin, you see that level of willingness for a community to step up. And we see, as Mila has shared, the idea that we draw alongside each other. It doesn't matter if we are directly affected by it right then and there. We see where good needs to be done.
Well, indirectly, we're all, in fact, inflicted with it, seeing that 50% of the precious metals coming out from Ukraine, starting with all the chip production, what is needed, comes out from 50% of the metals come from Ukraine, seeing what kind of shortages are there on chips, seeing the shortage on grain deliveries, seeing on the prices exploding on the world market. that just shows that it's the beginning of the effect what we will have in case Ukraine doesn't exist anymore. It's unbelievable, what kind of a disaster this would be for the world.
And that's the thing, as one of our listeners here is sharing, we talked about the importance of the agriculture sector and in the Cayman context, and as I paraphrase what they're saying, we're talking about having homegrown stuff, but we don't see how, so far away is Ukraine, yet their foods are on our shelves right next door. So it's an important one. I don't know. It makes me sort of think, as I hesitate and perhaps share this caller's sentiments. This one says, we see wars as a thing that transpires on TV in a half-hour or 2-hour documentary.
Right.
But do we understand the human cost?
No. I don't. It's bad. How to explain? There's a lot to say. Right now, you see a lot of in the Western media. You have a lot of talks for peace, right? And it sounds good. We should strive for peace. However, Mila, do you want to explain?
If I can jump in on that point, Phil, thank you for setting me up. Yes, absolutely, Ukrainians want peace. That's all they wish and desire for all day, every day. That's on everybody's mind. But what the enemy is trying to do here is to convince and push Ukraine into surrender, right, to how far they went, because they're not doing militarily well, right, on the front. This is why they're going after civilian infrastructure, after the terror, because they want to create another wave of refugees. They want people to run to Europe, and then European leaders to convince Ukrainian leaders to stop now, because they need that pause. They need the pause to collect more arms and restart. Really, this is their only intention. And how do I know that? Every single territory that is liberated, you find signs of genocide. Every single town has mass graves. Don't tell me you came there to liberate and save people, right? How can that be? So they need the pause, they need the negotiation, but only complete Ukrainian victory will bring the peace to Ukraine. Please bear that in mind. Ukrainians don't want to continue dying. They don't want to put their kids in a position where they might not live tomorrow or not live a full life. That's all they want. But they realize what's at stake. If they were to pause and agree to some kind of temporary peace deal, it will be just that. It will be a pause.
Yeah. I just want to jump in here quickly.
Yes, please.
It's interesting, in the beginning of the war, the Russian media was like, all right, listen, this is going to be over in 2 weeks. And now here we are at the 8th month mark. And now I don't know what the right word would be, but clearly warfare isn't working. So now they're doing all sorts of other dirty tactics, right, to, I don't know, change the shape of, make it more, I guess, geopolitical instead, like you said, with the refugee crisis and things like that. So it's a bad situation. It's a bad situation, and we in the Cayman Islands, we can help them out by donating. You can go to Foster's today till 8 p.m. and tomorrow from 2 to 8, and your change will go a long way. It will go a long way in helping these first responders get the right winter clothes needed to put out fires from these monsters who are attacking these peaceful villages. And I just want to say, they all say like winter's coming, but winter in Ukraine it can get to minus 30 Celsius, right? It's no joke.
It's already cold in November. November is already winter, really.
There you have it.
I'm exchanging with a listener, and I've tried to encourage the person to call in, because I think the points are good, but it's, to me, doing a disservice to the person trying to relay, perhaps not even the context, even if I paraphrase. But this last bit says, we look in the media and we hear all these things, and my interpretation, depending on the media outlet that you subscribe to, you may only be given a perspective. And the person has two comments. One, this person says, I question the objectivity of the media in reporting. And then secondly, mindful how I word this, but basically asking, to what extent can we trust what is there, and asking us through you, you share that you have a brother, what is the real things are transpiring
Yeah.
on the ground in Ukraine.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point to raise. There is a lot of misinformation and propaganda out there. And if you were to ask me, number one weapon, that the enemy use and continue to use every single day in this war, it's propaganda. It's the most powerful weapon that they have designated for brainwashing their society to to turn them against and somehow believe that they need to have 60,000, I think was the last count of their men die for I don't know for what, for genocidal cleansing of Ukrainians, right? As I mentioned before, Ukrainians did not choose this war, and many countries that were watching this conflict brew have warned the Russia not to invade and not to start, right? What happened though that they did, and they were going to conquer Ukraine in 3 days. They thought that we're just going to give up and run away and let them kill us essentially. And instead we have 8 months of war now. Monday was a very sad anniversary that we broke. 8 months of war. My brother, he wasn't in the army when the war started. He joined the army a few months into it because that's what all the men in Ukraine were doing. Because they realized if they don't fight, not only they will die, their children will die, their wives will die, their mothers and elderly will die. They had no choice but to pick up the arms and go and defend their country. Russia had the choice not to invade. Ukrainians were not given the choice. They are fighting for their survival. If they stop, there will be no Ukraine and there will be no Ukrainians. If Russia stops and withdraws their troop, the conflict will end. I think that makes it clear.
Yeah. If I may say to it, anybody thinks that Ukraine will stop or Russia will stop with Ukraine is completely wrong. Obviously the next area will be, can you believe that then really Ukraine gonna be Russian? I mean, Russia is in Central Europe, and there's almost Poland there, and Lithuania and some Latvia, some smaller countries there. So really, the Ukraine is the ball against this invasion, and really, they're carrying the load for Europe, for the Western democracy. They're carrying the daily load for the Western democracy, and that's what they do. And people have to understand that, and understand that people get immune of saying, well, again, war again for 8 months, every day in the morning, I'm watching it again. I cannot see it anymore. I understand that people get tired of it, and also sometimes people say, I don't want to give any money anymore, it's never going to end. But what it is, okay, we are going to be back, or we're going to be back in 3-4 months and asking for something else, because that's what the situation is right now and what the cause is looking for. And just to give an idea how I get this idea to be here and doing this event, I worked at the refugee crisis in Vienna at the railway station, where every 2 hours there's a train coming from Ukraine refugees, either from Poland, from Czechoslovakia. They can travel for free, and Vienna is the first big capital, or the first big railway spot where they get out. And I worked there, and the human tragedy what I saw there is unbelievable. I mean, I thought I saw Ivan, I saw this, I saw whatever I saw in my life. But I said, I'm going to go there and help a little bit, do a little bit this, a little bit that. Yeah, after 6 hours I was completely finished. I served about 900 people, just me alone, okay? And the lines were unbelievable, and the tragedy looking at the people, I mean, it really got onto my soul. And on the other hand, what I really admired in the people, their friendliness, their kindliness, and you could see it, they didn't want to leave. It's not economical refugees that listen, we want to leave because we find another place. No, they're leaving because their house got bombed. They're leaving because there's nothing there for them anymore as such. And there's obviously Russia trying to achieve, to bomb as much as possible to get as many Ukrainians leaving this area.
And this is where, as I listen to both of you and Mila, not just the passion, but the personal insight. And we can sit back as academics, we can sit back as just political or public pundits and make commentary. We talk about the geopolitical landscape unfolding. we hear, proxy wars. We all these things, and they may resonate with us. But I wonder if we, as Martin has said, see the human cost, see the change in physical and human landscape. A country goes into another country, and it expands its boundary, and it sounds almost it's no big deal, but there is a cost to that, and there are people whose lives now. One of the, and I want to leave it to you, one of the exchanges with another listener, and this is the great part, it's anonymous, I don't know who it is, it doesn't really matter, but they were sharing that as they listen to the news, it would appear that, and perhaps as on the side, the person says this is where they're learning about geography and about history, things that you don't necessarily pay attention to in school. But they were saying that as they're listening to it, it would seem like there is this mixed demographic within Ukraine, some according to the media, associate aligned with Russia, and some that don't, and so it's almost akin to an internal conflict. If it's okay, could I speak to you, ask you about that?
Absolutely. I would be glad to answer that. And I think this is one of the biggest misconceptions out there, and what Russia trying to promote in their propaganda, that somehow the Russian people in Ukraine were some kind of disrespected, made to speak Ukrainian, that they didn't feel fully human to a degree. So Russia, for years, brainwashed through the power of media their people to believe that they need to come in Ukraine and rescue the Russian ethnic population. But what you need to see, and it's very evident even by geography and the location, that since the beginning of war, they are bombing Kharkiv, which is eastern capital, the most Russian-speaking capital of Ukraine, every single day. Every single day. So, are you saving people or are you killing people? How can you come and rescue people with bombs? Those Russians are dying from those bombs. They are there. You cannot distinguish who was who. 3 generations ago, whose grandma was Russian, whose grandfather was Ukrainian. It was one of the most Russian-speaking cities in Ukraine, and it's in ruins. And I don't know what is really the count of civilians that died from bombing. That happens every single day. And when we see the liberation of that territory around that major city, as I said, we constantly find mass graves, right? So this is what they try to sell on the news, that we come in there to rescue Russians, but in reality, they're killing them. And on top of that, they are forcing them the men in occupied territories that were there in Donetsk, Lugansk region since 2014, like a cannon fodder, to go and be the first line in fire. So they actually not only killing Ukrainians, they're also killing these Russian people in the process of this conflict. So I fail to see how this is a liberation. The conflict is completely fabricated. It's an artificial. It didn't exist. Yes, there were some people with more of a pro-Russian views just because of the proximity to Russia that live in those territories. But they did not ask to join Russia. Russia sent their agents in, and they have actually, if you look at the other geopolitical conflict, they've done the same thing in Georgia. They've done the same thing in Moldova. It's their playbook. So all of a sudden, this appears to be in Ukraine, and you're telling me this is a brand new thing? No, this is what they've been doing over and over and over again, trying to pretend that everybody else in the world is stupid and going to continue to believe whatever they make up. They love frozen conflicts because frozen conflict does not allow countries like Ukraine to join NATO, right? There's a frozen military conflict. They have a clear agenda to have it, right? It suits their needs. Economically, Putin, who has been in power for 23 years, did not really fix the lives of ordinary Russian citizens in remote territories. Their only economic social lift is to go to the army, right? otherwise, you have no money to live and feed your family and survive. I'm talking outside of Moscow.
Yeah.
Russia is one of the biggest countries in the world. It is one. It's the biggest country by last man in the world, not by population. It's 140 million, I think, about, right? So all these men, they choose to go to be contractors in the army because they can then feed their family. And then they're thrown in Ukraine to fight. Also, Russia is not just full of Russian ethnicity. They have tons of minorities of Asian type of descent, Buryats, Kalmyks, Tuvinians. And so it happens so that in this war, those minorities in Russia are dying first because they don't send Muscovites, they don't send people from St. Petersburg because they don't want protests, right? But these remote territories in Siberia, you have to fly for like 6 hours within Russia. You're still going to be in Russia on the plane, crossing that land, to bring those Buryats and Kalmyks to Ukraine. And they're dying, so the people in Moscow don't see those deaths, right? This is why they're so indifferent, right? Some remote villagers that are like minorities are dying, we don't care until it comes for us. And this is why, by the way, recently they've stopped mobilization in Moscow because they figured out that the conflict is brewing. But they continue doing it everywhere else in this remote territory. So they're not only doing genocidal cleansing in Ukraine, they're actually doing it to their own minorities, which is really heartbreaking, I think.
Well, we see our government just recently, and sort of a sign of solidarity, hoisting the flag today and tomorrow. Today until 8 p.m. process come on a bit. Tomorrow until 2 p.m.
Starting at 2 p.m. but until 8 p.m. as well.
So 2 p.m. until 8, and today continues until 8.
Yeah.
Process come on a bit.
Correct.
Bring your CI. Because if you know US, you know CI, is that what I say? But we prefer the CI.
Yeah, we prefer the CI, but we will take US as well.
Yeah. And we'll stretch every single penny. We all volunteering. We have a wonderful group of people from Austrian community, Crimean community, Ukrainian community here. We all united. We're donating our time. We have donated our own resources. So every single penny we raise will go towards the cause, and nothing will be wasted.
Right. Well, I'll see if somewhere in our archive we'll have a snippet of the Ukrainian anthem, but perhaps Martin sort of telepathically communicated to me, not only are you an eloquent spokesman, a great tax, advocate, but you're a singer as well, so you could hum the Ukrainian song.
Right. I have to live up to that.
I mean, after all, the godmother of Ukraine. No, but this is the love, the laughter that we share, and perhaps tomorrow we're going to be part of it, and this evening as well.
Yeah.
It's good to see people with such passion, enthusiasm, such a genuine spirit.
We are a brother's keeper. I mean, yes. Personally, I don't know anybody in Ukraine, but we are all humans in this world, and now more than ever, it really shows how strong we are united. You have the whole Western world, standing behind Ukraine, and whatever they need, we will help you. We are all in this together. I think this is a major battle of good versus evil, and where good will obviously overcome.
Amen. All right, well, Martin, as usual, if it's a good thing, you're in the middle of it, man, so thank you.
Yeah, next time I sit on the outside.
It was a pleasure. Keep us updated.
We'll do. Thank you so much, Dwayne. I really appreciate this opportunity, and once again, I really want to thank Cayman community for their Cayman kind. I really, truly appreciate it on behalf of all the Ukrainians here and worldwide.
Well, you're most welcome. We're going to pause and take a break, and when we come back, hey, we have another discussion. We want you to be a part of it. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Tasty that gives you that lip-smacking satisfaction. Something that hits the spot. There is nothing better than a footlong from Subway.
It's pretty tasty.
Filling and full of flavor. Try our new sweet onion steak teriyaki with a twist. Or the classic chicken teriyaki. Top it with green pepper, onions, cheese, and that sweet onion teriyaki sauce. All piled on your favorite artisanal bread. Satisfy that craving with a footlong from Subway.
Fresh, delicious, tasty, meaty.
Let's make it a meal with a drink, chips, and cookies. There is nothing better than a footlong from Subway.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
And the whole island is one big, big party, party, party.
Little Cayman, the 2022 Pirates Fest season starts with you November 4th through the 6th with the official kickoff at McCoy's Sunset Bar Friday the 4th, followed by the float parade 3 p.m. on the 5th starting from Southern Cross, costume competition, fireworks show, and don't forget about the Pirates party at the Hungry Iguana. You know them pirates like a little party, Little Cayman style. Little Cayman Pirates Fest, November 4th through the 6th.
Can you imagine your home completely organized? At Brand Source Custom Closets, we can. We specialize in designing and building custom closets and storage units for any room in your home, including the garage. With tailored designs and custom LED lighting solutions to fit your lifestyle and budget. Our custom closets expert is committed to enhancing the value of your home with a solution that is uniquely yours. Visit our showroom or call 623-6774 to schedule a no-obligation appointment with our design expert. Brand Source Custom Closets, 209 Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park.
At Doctor's Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctor's Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
Pirates Fest. A little bit of old, a little bit of new. The evolution of Cayman's Pirates. A little bit of fun for everyone. Grand Cayman festivities from November 10th through the 20th. 10 days, 33 events. From happy hour parties, cardboard boat races, the Trial of the Pirates, float parade, national song competition, pooch parades, races, fireworks. So many fireworks. Pirates Fest is here. 33 events, 10 days, November 10th through the 20th. Stay in the know. Get the full event lineup at piratesfestcayman.com.
Pirate fire, raging through Church Street, bright and little Cayman, putting on some heat.
Wouldn't it have been grand if you had purchased land 30 years ago? It may not be 2020, but a perfect vision has never been more clear. Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, poised for growth with an eye on the future. Your land, your history, your future. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And as we sort of get ready for our headline news at 1, I want to maybe start off by setting the stage to introduce three wonderful, dedicated gentlemen, and perhaps under the leadership of our discussion today, Mr. Kerry Lawrence. Hey, good afternoon, man. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sterling. How's it going? And good afternoon to the wider Cayman.
You know, life is good. We give thanks and we do our very best to make the best contribution. And I think as we set up our discussion, I think it's important for us to realize that resilience and resolve sort of reside within a populace that want to be as self-sufficient as possible, but recognizing that there is much to contribute. And as a preview to what we're going to talk about, I know we can get Mr. Whitaker to perhaps introduce himself, but through you, would you set the stage quickly and say what we're going to be talking about, and the two fine gentlemen, one of whom is probably, most handsome. We want to single out Mr. Whitaker.
I would thought you were talking about Cody.
I'll take it.
I just can't.
Well, what we're here for today, we want to discuss our project that we're trying to do here, and it's to do with food sustainability and being able to sustain ourselves economically, and being able to provide a good, healthy product for Cayman Islands, because we're at the point now that we can do so. And I'll have Cody introduce himself.
All right, Cody.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Cody Whitaker. I'm the farm manager at Primitive Greens and the co-founder. Thank you, Sterling, for giving us the time on the radio.
You're most welcome, man. I'm honestly, to see this sort of initiative, to see an extended partnership, to see a populace that is saying, we don't only want accessibility, we don't only want quality, we want to see the entrepreneurial spirit encouraged and go from what may have been subsistence farming to a viable commercial entity that could, who knows, inspire other operations across the region. But Mr. Whitaker, I know you, without any degree of difficulty, don't need much introduction, but as Mr. Lawrence shared, James, brief intro.
Thanks for inviting us on your show once again. Much appreciated. And hello to Cayman. My name is James Whitaker. I am the president and founder of Green Tech Energy here in Cayman, as well as the president of the Cayman Renewable Energy Association.
All right. And with that, if you think, how does farming and green energy go? We can say they're both greens. Let's try to figure out how to make that a little bit more palatable. But let's pause quickly. Our news is ready. When we come back, we'll get into the meat of the matter, or in this case, we'll sow seed. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice. Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
The Anti-Corruption Commission has today charged Mr. Jeffrey Ebanks, chairman of the Cayman Islands National Housing Development Trust, with conflict of interest and breach of trust. Mr. Ebanks is due to appear in court on the 8th of November. The ACC says no further comment will be made pending the outcome of the proceedings. In international headlines, the intruder who attacked House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband in their San Francisco home was searching for the Democratic leader, shouting, "Where is Nancy?" before assaulting Paul Pelosi with a hammer. Mr. Pelosi was attacked and severely beaten by an assailant with a hammer who broke into the Pelosi home early Friday. Jerry Lee Lewis, the untamable rock and roll pioneer whose outrageous talent, energy, and ego collided on such definitive records as Great Balls of Fire and Whole Lotta Shakin' Going On, and sustained a career otherwise upended by personal scandal, died this morning at 87. The last survivor of a generation of groundbreaking performers that included Elvis Presley, Chuck Berry, and Little Richard, Lewis died at his Mississippi home south of Memphis, Tennessee. That according to Representative Zach Farnham in a release. The news comes just 2 days after the publication of an erroneous TMZ report of his death, which was later retracted. Those are your headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom. I'm April Cummings.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette, brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Born in Watering Place, Cayman Brac, on the 8th day of July 1936, Captain Fred Elman Scott was the 5th child born to Nalio and Vera Scott. Captain Scott enjoyed a fulfilling career at sea spanning more than 50 years. He was ahead of his time, employing his mathematical and computer skills to create payroll software, depth charts of Georgetown Harbor, and his pride and joy was his weather program that could detect when a storm formed anywhere in the world and was able to track and forecast its path. He had 6 children and was married for 52 years to Bernadette Silva, whom he met during his tenure in Brazil. In 1954, when Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II visited, Captain Scott had the distinct honor shaking the Queen's hand and piloting the Royal Yacht Britannia and anchored it in the Georgetown Harbor. Captain Scott was a humble man who liked his khaki suit and cap and loved to share his knowledge with those who crossed his path. He was honored at the National Heroes Day, acknowledging the seafaring heritage of these islands.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands, the ultimate staycation experience. Your culture, your freedom, the land that time forgot isn't gone. It's your Sister Islands.
Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointments.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
You see how hard it's raining?
Yeah, and I don't have time to fight traffic and get my lunch from Subway. I have so much work to do.
Why don't you order Subway by using the Let's Eat or Bento app? Save time, stay dry, and get your sandwich fast.
I never thought of that. Great idea. I'm going to order now.
Order me a veggie pizza while you're at it.
And a cookie platter for the office.
Too busy at work or home? Is the rainy weather stopping you from dining out? Order your favorite Subway sandwich, wrap, or pizza through the Let's Eat or Bento app with fast and reliable delivery. Subway, eat fresh.
Busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And I'm very glad to have the opportunity to welcome Mr. Carol Lawrence, and not just to promote and support the importance of agriculture, but perhaps through you, Carol, to understand where we are, where we could probably be, and maybe how to get there, together with James Whitaker and Cody. Gentlemen, I think with the presence of Cody, we got to realize that hard work actually pays off, right?
There you go.
There you go. But Carol, primitive greens. Right. Tell us about it, the concept, how did it come about, and why?
Well, Dwayne, we've been working on this project now for about 2.5 years. What led us to this stage that we're at right now is that seeing a need for us to produce cleaner food here on this island, which can be done. I mean, in the past, you couldn't do it here. Lack of land, a lot of fertile soil. Farming is normally hard labor job, right? Not much people want to get into farming, but it's something that every country has to do to be able to sustain itself, right? I mean, I read an article in the Nor'wester provided by Mr. Connor. It was written in 1977, right? Talking about food sustainability on the island and being urged by the UK to pay close attention to agriculture. Now that's from 1977, right? And we haven't done anything about it, right? Now, I think the agriculture department support farmers, right, in a way, but it has not been a push to push it in the right direction of what we can do here. Now, technology has aided us with an opportunity to be able to farm and to be able to sustain ourselves here on this island. Right, so as I said, we've been working on this for 2.5 years, and what it is indoor containerized farms, and we produce greens, and we can produce a whole heap of vegetables. But what we do right now is we are focusing on the greens, and seeing what we can do and what we can provide. Now, when we was doing that, it was testing and seeing what the product was like, because we wasn't sure at the time what it'd be like. That's why it took that time to do so. And after getting there and tasting it and going through the whole process of setting these up and going, then we realized that it can be done, right? So after looking at that, and at farms, we make our own water. So the last thing now was energy, okay? Therefore, I reached out to Mr. Whitaker saying, what can we do about energy, knowing that he's a solar expert here in the island. I said, what can we do about energy? You know, we need to get the cost of the product down. It's a good, clean product, no pesticides, no herbicides. How could we get the cost down for electricity? And hence the reason why I reached out to James. Now, we came up with this plan that covers all bases for clean product, clean energy for a good price, right? And where we're at right now is we've put the proposals together. We proposed it to government. We did proposal to OFREC, showing them our whole plan as in to do this farm and to be able to produce. And I'll have Cody talk about what we can produce so he can get the understanding of it, because he's a guy that really does the whole production and everything else. So I'll have him talk to that, and then James can talk about the solar side of it.
All right. Well, I certainly appreciate it. And Cody, you know, I think one thing that perhaps the country as a whole would agree, you know, food security equals national security. You can have all the money in the world, and as green as the bills may be, I don't think they're that tasty. You know, you can put anything on it, even a little bit of pepper sauce, it still don't taste that good. So we need food, but we also, as Kara shared, the idea that farming has seen to either do we have enough arable land? Do we have the interest of the people? Is the financial returns there? Do we have the science and the technology and all these other things that go into it? It's no longer a case where the subsistence farming, this is potential, you know, survival. Share with us as you would, as Kerry shared. What's the operation like? Tell us about the science behind it, the phenomenal things that you're doing.
So I think this type of farming started to catch on in around 2011, 2012. So it's been a long time coming for the technology, but at that time the technology was so expensive. Most of everything that they were doing were like pilot projects, so they're just phasing things out, and like kind of similar like to what you've seen with the plasma screen. Way back when plasma screen $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. Now you can pick one up $400, $500. We're seeing that type of change in farming, and that's every single year. So whether that's in the LED lights, the HVAC systems, and all the technology that they put into it, they have a lot of research and development. So now the cost of that system is coming down.
Only if it's okay, because I am somewhat privy to the fact that, you know, here in Cayman, whether it's a proprietary blend or something, whether it's a particular trade secret that we have, whatever it is, it's always capital intensive. There's a lot, and that maybe what my friends in the intellectual property community talk about, you know, that innate knowledge that you have, you want to make sure that you preserve that. But understanding that you're not using, you know, pesticides and, you know, chemicals and all that thing, you're utilizing technology and a particular approach to produce not only very tasty greens, but one that seemingly have a better longevity, as it were, freshness to it.
Yeah, because you're basically getting the produce as it's ready to harvest. So the stuff you get imported is probably 2, 3, 4 weeks old, depending on how long it's been sitting down there, and you have to wait for them to harvest it, package it up, put it on trucks, and you have to basically wait for everything to get here. We attended the Food and Nutrition Security meeting yesterday in Prospect. Mr. Brian there kind of gave us an insight of how the trade route works with the ships. So things that you'd get from like Colombia, they don't have a direct trade route here. So everything from Colombia has to go to Miami, then it comes back down here. So that in itself, you're losing a ton of nutrition. Anything can happen to that produce, and for that produce to last that long, you have to spray with herbicides and pesticides and things to preserve different things. So even like with apples, usually when you get an apple, you have to wash it off because there's like a wax coating on it. So all of those things you have to apply to your food when it's not local in order for it to ship well. So when you're growing local, where our farm is located, we're max maybe 10-15 miles from major grocery stores and things like that. So when it's ready to be picked, we pick it the same day and drop it off the same day. So you're getting the freshest product possible. There's no way you can get a fresher product.
I mean, minutes away from, you know, the distribution point. We're not talking thousands of miles or weeks or months in some cases. But Kerry, it is a capital intensive investment. it is something that you have to have the entrepreneurial spirit, but also the vision.
Yes, and this project was a project that we're passionate about, right? Because it's something that can be done here, and I am kind of tired of Cayman coming last in things, right? So this project, I say, is the first. We'll be in the Caribbean. We did some research, first in the world to pair the two together with energy and farming. Right now, to understand the farming scale of this thing, right? One of our farms, okay, I can grow whatever you can grow on 3.5 acres, right, in a 40-foot container, right? So you put that into perspective. At full growing capacity, every week, if I'm just counting romaine lettuce, any lettuce, I could do approximately, at maximum, 1,500 heads per week. And you can cut back. You can, for the season. So if you have a busy season, you can ramp it up. If you have a slow season,
so it's scalable.
So you can scale it down. So you limit the waste to the product. And not only that is, you're providing great product here on island that can last a long time. It's a healthier product. We like to say that it's beyond organic because we use no pesticides and no herbicides. And what you have to understand is when you buy something in the store and it says organic, they're approved sprays still being sprayed on those things that are proved to be called organic.
Yeah. And the thing is, I'm not trying to be disparaging, but I was just thinking from what Cody shared. If I'm off in terms of the farming and biological perspective, then certainly, but you want something healthy into your body, and if you put something on your skin, it'll go into your body. So if the apple, for instance, has a waxy film on it and you wash it off, I've always, on a personal level, as much as I like apples, always questioned, well, has that penetrated the skin and maybe rests at its core? When I chew the seeds, is it in there? It's just a question I had. But organic can also mean
what we've done with this project, right? And I'll have James explain what we do with the solar, right? But what we've done with this project is, with the brainstorming and the thought we put in this project, was to provide a healthy product, a clean product, year round, right? Because you have to understand that farmers on island produce maybe 1% of imported greens and stuff into this island, right? That's not very much. So if just a war break out, like say the Ukraine, COVID, you look at the shelves, right, and you can see a difference on the shelves. So, this project will sustain us and can sustain us. We just have to get behind it. So what we've done is we put a package together which covers clean product, clean energy, right? We're not asking government for financing. We're not asking them for any land. All we're asking them for is support. So support us in a way of cutting the red tape that we generally have to go through, right? And we're not asking anybody to do anything illegal, right? Okay. We're just asking to support, to follow the policy that government put forward for years, meaning let's check food sustainability. How could it be done? Well, we have a project here that can cover those bases and all bases and be clean, right? So we've covered all bases with this. And I'll have James explain about the solar, so you can get a vast understanding, not only the clean food, but also clean energy, and for a low cost once we get what we need to get covered, you see.
Right. But James, with that, I certainly want to, again, welcome you and invite you. We know the cost of land. We know the availability of arable land, even if we, we can afford the land. Is it available? Water, from what I gather, in any sort of farming environment, is very significant. But as Kerry shared, how do we make the stuff work in order to get the food to grow? We need some sort of energy generation.
Yeah.
I like the sun. It's it's wonderful. I like the SON even better, but that's another thing. How do we use this in
So one of the benefits of outdoor farming is that you have the sun and you don't have to pay for it, at least not during the day. And but the drawbacks are that you could never produce the quantity and the kinds of produce you can with the indoor commercial farming where you have a controlled environment. So effectively what we have to do is recreate the sun in the indoors, and that's really the biggest ongoing cost with the indoor farming operation. And as Kerry and Cody alluded to, this project is a first of its kind. This This is true innovation, right? And we want Cayman to be the first to be able to say, we've done this here in Cayman, and ultimately this will be scaled across the Caribbean as well. But you can't have food security without the energy security, right? Mm-hmm. These things go hand in hand, and that's why we've partnered up together. Just to kind of put it in very simple terms, if you say you got food security, but you're relying on the energy that comes from the grid, well, from a power perspective, what happens when the grid goes down during a hurricane? All your crops die and you can't provide food. Well, that's not food security, right? So you have to be able to provide your own power 24/7, 365, and have that security there. The other thing you have to do is you have to bring down the costs. As Carrie alluded to, what we're going after is the imported food, not the local farmers. The local farmers can still produce 100% of what they're doing now. We're going after the imported food, and so we need to be able to bring down the energy costs so that we can sell our cleaner, healthier, cheaper, better, zero waste food at less than the cost of the imports, right? Mm-hmm. And so you have to really match your energy security with your food security, and the way that we're doing that is in a quite unique way. Kara talked about the fact that we can get acres of farm into one container. So at scale, this facility is basically going to take about 150 acres of farmland and compress that down into 1 acre of production.
150.
About 150 acres of land down into 1 acre. So we're producing the equivalent that we could produce on 150 acres of land. Right. And what you don't want to do ideally, in an ideal scenario, is now then go back and take that acreage up by building a big solar farm, right? So the way that we have developed this project is that we intend to float the solar in a man-made lake. And so we're using an already existing space that isn't being used right now. So it truly is saving 150 acres of land down into 1 acre of land.
Repurpose, reuse.
That's right.
Okay.
So the facility, if you can envision it, is going to be a Cat 5 hurricane rated facility that has the containers and the farm operations on the inside. The farm operations will have its own microgrid, a microgrid meaning it has solar, battery systems, and gensets, and it's able to provide its own power when it needs to once the grid goes down. From the energy perspective, there's really two things that we really have to look at. One is the power need of the facility, but the second is also the cost of the energy. And so one is about building the microgrid and making sure you have the resiliency that you always have power. But the second part of it is you also have to bring the cost of that energy down. So you have to basically build the renewable energy at scale. But when you build it at scale, the facility doesn't need all of that energy. You're building at scale to drive down the cost. And so the key aspect too is that the facility will be using some of the solar, and then some of the solar will be sold back to the grid. We're basically selling, without getting into too much of the numbers, we're basically selling clean solar energy back to the grid at half the cost of diesel today. Right? So, that also helps to bring down the overall cost of energy. So not only are you getting 100% sustainable food that is clean, powered by solar, and is going to be there from a resiliency standpoint, but the country is also getting clean, cheaper energy on top of that as well.
As I listen to you, there are a couple of things that come to mind, and I harken back. I didn't bother to pull my notes initially, sort of have them, but Dr. Dorman and Dr. Williams was on many moons ago on a show talking about one world, one health, and the idea. And one of the discussions sort of revolved around food costs and food waste, and not just from our dinner plates, but from restaurants, from places, supermarkets, just ordinary course of production and shipping. There's a lot of waste. From what you were sharing, I'm gathering that significantly, James said it 3 times, zero waste. Right? That's a lot. How many of us have gone to the supermarket, bought a particular fruit, and for whatever reason we just didn't get to it then, and that'll be good tomorrow, and then when we check it, it's not that good. That banana is gone.
You see, Dwayne, when you look at waste, also you have to look at nobody sees really, and speak about what's thrown away at the supermarkets either, right?
Right.
That's added on to your cost also, because you have to recoup that at some point, right? So, our product is right now cheaper than what you can get imported, but we want it way down. We want it really low and provide a good price for a good product. On this whole scale of things, we needed to touch every basis. So we touch on the clean energy, the clean food. We also, with this project, touch on education and trying to educate our children into farming. Right. So we also suggest that we when we put it to the government that we could, introduce one of these into the schools and teach them to grow this stuff. And, they won't be able to eat everything that they grow in there, but then that could be donated to the food bank, that could be donated to Jasmine, whichever of our community need it, they can have it, and we're bringing up our kids in a way that they could do the same thing, right? Because farming normally, you won't get kids out there in the hot sun these days farming, right? Even for elderly people that's retired, right? They can still come into the farm because it's a cool environment. It's not labor intensive, right? And this is something that they could do.
All right. We got a couple of comments from our listeners online, but speaking to Kara Lawrence, Primitive Greens, we got, Cody Whitaker and James Whitaker. An exchange with one of our listeners is sharing, referencing, I think, your comment earlier, Kerry. They said, we want to ask the government to reduce the red tape, the bureaucracy. And the person says, well, don't governments, not just the Cayman government, but governments, grant concessions, incentives, provide different things to encourage industry, to encourage different things. I was asking, well, could you expound specifically what are the hiccups and what are the hindrances?
Well, when we went into this, we didn't go into this asking for a whole bunch of concessions and stuff like that. And the reason why is we didn't want to do that because we didn't want anything to hold the project up. Right? And being optimistic, I was like, okay, if we limit that stuff, we shouldn't get any drawbacks on this project. So after talking to James go, boy, this is going to be a fight. So I said, well, how could it be a fight? He said, well, we have to go to off-reg. I said, fine. Look at this before we go to off-reg. Let us brainstorm and let us turn over all the stones and see if there's any negatives to this project. Right? So if we can find negatives in it, let's take it out. Okay? So we took out all the negatives that we found in the project, and then James goes, well, we have one problem, still off-reg. So I said, well, why? He goes, because we're going to ask them to sell the excess energy that we'll be producing back to CUC for half the cost of diesel, but they're not going to approve it. So I said, well, why? He said, well, trend is off-reg to make decisions. Right? So I said, well, what do you mean? That's what they're paid to do, right? Make decisions.
Yeah.
And this is one of the decisions that they have to make, right? So I was optimistic. We went in there and we had all the board and we had some of the board members out to see the project. We presented the project to the board because we wanted to present the project. We asked to present the project so that everybody can get an overview. And we had a full room of everybody entailed in off-reg to show this project to. Right, so we showed the whole project, what we wanted to do, how we intend to do it, have the financing available, have everything available. Here's the project. So we've been waiting now the better part of 8 months, 7 months?
6 months.
6 months for an answer on whether or not we can sell the energy back to CUC for a cheaper price than we're paying for diesel at this point. Now, this shouldn't take this long. So we've also asked government for help, and that's the help that we're asking for, to cut away the red tape. How can we get over this hump to get this project going? This is a project that could be started and finished within 14 months and provide clean food, jobs, energy to the country for a cheaper cost. So how could we get over that?
All right. I would also just expound on that. I mean, the reason I kind of warned Kerry about it early on is because I've been doing this a while now, and I've seen, many ideas where, there are no downsides and they still either don't get approved or the decisions just take so long that, the projects fizzle away, and that's unfortunate. And so I think the underlying problem we have here from a regulatory standpoint, and it's a legacy problem, this didn't start yesterday, is that the regulatory decision making here is very slow, it's very cumbersome. Oftentimes there's not enough expertise in there to make decisions, and there's not enough confidence in there to make decisions, right? And so what you end up with is this sort of paralysis of decision making from a regulatory standpoint. And, that's part of what Kerry is referring to, where we need government to help, make sure that they facilitate some decision making to go on. We love to do a good study. Nothing like paying a consultant $100,000 to tell us something.
You got a deal, man. $100,000?
Yeah. $100,000, $200,000 to tell us something that our very highly paid technical people should already know. But as Kara pointed out, I mean, really and truly, if they the caller or the person who's emailing wants to know what the gist of it is the reality is the regulator simply has to make a decision as to whether buying clean energy at half the cost of diesel is a good idea to have food security for the country. That's the entire decision, if you can believe it or not.
No, say that again, because that sounds simple. What's the entire decision?
The entire decision is to say yes to selling clean energy at half the cost of diesel to have food security in the country.
And honestly, I like to, laugh. I always believe humor can lighten the mood and make learning a lot more fun. But James, I think many recognize you as very, very respectful to share it. As an expert in this field, as someone who has been a public champion, your advocacy on part of the association has encouraged us to look at alternative energy, solar in particular. When we come back, can we talk more about what seems to be, as an aside, the perception of many in this community when they say, well, I wouldn't mind, getting more solar in my house, in my space, but there seems to be an issue, and they've shared different things. And I wonder if this is tied into it somehow. What is that issue? Why is that their issue? We know the utility provider weighs into it. We know the regulators there. For a minute, James, maybe we can talk to you about that so that we understand the capacity issue and all these other things that they talk about.
Sure.
All right. When we come back, Harry, man, I want to wish you had brought some of those, greens and all that so primitive so we can taste them. All right, stay tuned. We'll talk today.
Did you know that ValueMed Pharmacy has a free online prescription service? Managing your health and medical requirements has never been easier with ValueMed. Simply visit value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com and click the Refill Prescriptions tab on our website. Fill in the information for new prescriptions or refills and choose your preferred pickup location. ValueMed on Walkers Road or Town. Then bring in your original prescription from your doctor when picking up. There's no need to stand in line and wait for your prescription. Save time and pick up prescriptions at your convenience by visiting value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com.
When you're craving something big, something tasty that gives you that lip-smacking satisfaction, something that hits the spot, there is nothing better than a footlong from Subway.
It's pretty tasty.
Filling and full of flavor. Try our new sweet onion steak teriyaki with a twist. Or the classic chicken teriyaki. Top it with green pepper, onions, cheese, and that sweet onion teriyaki sauce, all piled on your favorite artisanal bread. Satisfy that craving with a footlong from Subway.
Fresh, delicious, tasty, meaty.
Let's make it a meal with a drink, chips, and cookies. There is nothing better than a footlong from Subway.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, x-ray, and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. Affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Call 949-7331 and ask about MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
And the whole island is one big party, party, party.
Little Cayman, the 2022 Pirates Fest season starts with you. November 4th through the 6th with the official kickoff at McCoy's Sunset Bar, Friday the 4th, followed by the float parade. 3 p.m. on the 5th, starting from Southern Cross. Costume competition, fireworks show, and don't forget about the Pirates Party at the Hungry Iguana. You know them pirates like a little party, Little Cayman style. Little Cayman Pirates Fest, November 4th through the 6th.
Cayman Islands, are you ready?
Yes, sir, Central.
Live from Roatan, Honduras, it's the Happy Boys.
I am feeling like it's so high.
Happy Boys.
Send me the pillow that you dream on.
Bandans music from 9 p.m. until it's a Bay Island celebration hosted by D-Doctor and guest parts proceeds goes to Meals on Wheels. Brought to you by Radio Cayman, The Mango Tree, CaymanEvents.co, and Loud Production. Saturday, November 5th, Wednesday, November 9th, and holiday Monday, November 14th. Don't you miss the Happy Boys from Roatan, the Bay Islands of Honduras.
a caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon, welcome back, and thanks for joining us, and thanks to Mr. Carol Lawrence for sitting with us, and not just encouraging through the entrepreneurial spirit, but the idea that farming can, not only contribute significantly to national security, but hopefully inspire others, and hopefully at some point show that economically we can make some viable returns. So from primitive greens,
Yes.
Now I've seen some of the product in the supermarket, but quite honestly, I've come to the supermarket, I see it, and I should go back and get some more. When I come back, it's almost gone. So it seems to be that people are realizing this is a good thing.
Well, Sterling, it's a good clean product. It's healthy, very healthy, and it has a taste. Most of the stuff that you get in here now from overseas don't really have that taste, right? So you can taste the sweetness of the vegetables, and it makes you want to eat it. Basically, like you really don't even need a dressing to put on that if you don't want to, right?
I crave your indulgence and ask for your permission after the fact, if it's okay to share. I had Cody, just give me one piece of some of the different greens, and if it's okay to see. I don't think I'm easily impressed necessarily, and I don't mean that to be in any way disparaging. And what I saw, this thing was akin to one of those big scientific labs that are just super clean. The air was fresh. The space was absolutely clean. And you maybe taste a couple of things. I thought, I know these things. I eat these things. I buy these things. And it was incredible. I'm not trying to flatter you in any way. I was truly impressed. Not just at the operation, not just that this thing can be done here, but the quality of it. Anybody that eats kale, likes kale, trust me, take a piece, put it in your mouth, there's a taste that you kind of get used to. But the stuff that you gave me was soft, was crisp, was almost Swedish, if that makes sense. Am I exaggerating, you think?
Oh, no, that just has everything to do with freshness. So when you got that kale, actually, I believe that kale was growing for about 18 months.
You're sticking with that story. Yes. You told me that, and I'm saying, okay, he's young, time to him doesn't really. But honestly, and it was soft, tender. I don't know. I was truly impressed.
Yeah. So with the growing as well, you got to remember we're controlling the temperature. So anywhere between 60 to 70 degrees day and night time is the temperature that our produce is staying at. And then when we harvest it, it's also going into something a little bit cooler. So it's already in its natural state. It's used to being there. So if you take our produce out in the heat and leave it by itself, you'll see that it'll have some adverse effects to it. But if you put it back in water, then it'll catch back up. And that has everything to do with the freshness. And because we're not spraying anything on it, there's a pile of benefits with that.
And I love the kitchen. I mean, you can see from my size, I enjoy being in the kitchen, right? And kale, other than caldo, Cayman caldo is probably the only other thing I love even more. But kale is something that I enjoy. But until a friend showed me the little trick as to how to massage and make the kale that much better. If you don't do that, you get a taste. But with the one I got from you, that was perfect.
Yeah, and it was the same kale that you'd buy in the grocery store, same type of species.
And I've been accused of being very, very particular in my kitchen. I'm very, very clean. I don't make no apology for that. I rewash my hands 1,000 times between one station to the next. You clipped the thing, I saw it, you passed it to me, and I inspected it. And that was James, no kidding, that was flawless. I looked at it and I could see, Cody going, yeah, he thinks he's a connoisseur. But at your sort of, invitation, hey, look at this thing, taste it, tell me, check it out, proof is in the pudding. And it was in the tasting, man. So I commend you for the stellar work that you're doing. If it's okay, though, just like James is, very technical and savvy and super latrine, Kara has that acumen equally. But you also have, the expertise from the other part. So this is not just a guy who jumps up and says, oh, today, I'll dig a hole and plant a tree.
Yeah.
So we bring a lot to the table.
Yeah, so basically I studied computer science in school, and the way that farming is going with controlled environment agriculture, there's a lot of hardware, so a lot of sensors, a lot of monitoring, a lot of data that you have to analyze, and that's where my expertise comes in. So the only physical labor stuff that I do is like planting the seeds, transplanting them, and harvesting. Yeah. But everything else is based on the technology.
I appreciate you making an effort to explain some of the stuff to me, and after you start talking, I say, stop, just give me the food. But I'm glad you understand that. Now, James, back to you. Prior to the break, I was asking a question because I quickly asked when doing a break to make a call to confirm something. And I gather from just the private homeowner who wants to, because of energy costs or the environmental considerations or some reason, economically otherwise, they want to figure out, well, how can I reduce my costs? How can I be a better, global citizen? And they come up to all sorts of things and asking off-rig, speaking to CUC and different things. And I'll be honest with you, if it's not chocolate, it's not dessert unless it's cacao cake or custard or cornbread. So some of the things that don't make sense. Make this make sense to me. What is it that we have to jump through to get it to work so that we can get what we need?
All right, we probably need a whole show just for that.
We can do that tomorrow.
But I will try to keep it brief. If you go back to 2017, we did something called an infusion study. When I say we, CUC and OFREG. And that basically told us, here's the roadmap of what you need to be able to do to make sure that you can get enough renewable energy up on your grid and keep your grid stable. This is the maximum capacity that you have. And then off of that, you basically had to plan grid upgrades to make sure that that capacity could continue. You'll be aware that we also, right after that, passed a national energy policy. And we said, hey, these are the targets that we're going to have as a country. And if you kind of look at it, you basically need to be adopting somewhere around 10 megawatts per year on average every year for the next 20 years. Cayman's been averaging around 1 megawatt a year. So we have been woefully behind. And the problem is that, unfortunately, at the end of the day, the buck stops with OFREG to ensure that there is sufficient capacity, to ensure that consumers have choice in energy, to ensure that there is competition in energy. These are all responsibilities of OFREG. And unfortunately, OFREG has failed for years and years and years and years when it comes to proper capacity planning. So the problem that you're lamenting, that you're touching on, is the fact that every couple of years, we've been running out of capacity. So they open the solar programs and then they stop the solar programs. Then they open it and then they stop it. And then they open it and then they stop it. And unfortunately, that's been going on pretty consistently since about 2019, and they're still doing it today. And it all comes down to the fact that they have very poor capacity planning. And now the first grid upgrade is happening and it's coming online next year, which is the big CUC batteries. But the truth is, they need to be planning for the next iteration of that battery today, because that battery is going to be used up. That 12 megawatts is going to be gone in probably 2 years, and it's going to take them 2 years to plan and develop and deploy the next battery. So it's just a continual lack of proper capacity planning that is one of the major problems over at OFREG, and they still have not, despite knowing that that's an issue, despite people like me telling them that that's an issue, it continues to be an issue for them. So what does that really mean for the homeowner? Well, it means that, you'll call me up and say, James, I'd like some solar on my house. And I say, sure, no problem. Here you go. Here's a contract. We sign a contract. And then the next one calls me up next week, and I have to tell them, oops, sorry, OFREG has the program closed. And then they wait weeks or months for the program to reopen again. It reopens again. Everybody rushes in. Then it's gone again. It's the lack of capacity planning and the fact that the grid doesn't have sufficient capacity that is the problem that people keep running into.
Well, we're going to take you off to have a subsequent show, because I think increasingly, especially when we talk to people who are either from other jurisdictions, including Europe, where the sun doesn't shine every day apparently, especially this time of year, But even those who have lived and visited in Call Cayman home, to understand sun shines at night here, it seems like, and we have this issue. So as a sort of segue, we won't extend an invitation. I'll confirm with you during the next week.
Sure.
But to me, that seems to play in with what Mr. Lawrence is trying to say. I want to get something. I'm willing to put it. I have the expertise. I'm willing to put what it takes. But there's a
slow decision making, and that's the common theme throughout all of this. Is that the decision making over there is extremely slow to the point where it's hugely detrimental. Many projects have come and gone because of the slowness of that. One of the things that we need to get a better handle on as a country is facilitating innovation like primitive greens, facilitating innovation like OTEC. The process that is used right now is cumbersome, it is slow, and oftentimes it kills projects with the indecisions that are being made over there.
I'd like to say this on top of what James is saying, right? We're holding on here. We live here. Our children live here. And, we're trying to do a project here, a place that we call home. Now, we have offers to go overseas and do the same project, right? But we're sitting here, struggling to do it here. I really don't want to have to leave here and go and do it somewhere else and then end up with an article with me in the paper saying I'm doing this somewhere else. Carol Lawrence, James Whitaker and Cody Whitaker doing this project somewhere else.
And you export to Cayman, possibly.
Yeah, right. It's very hard to think about stuff like that, right? A good friend of mine I met with the other day, and I respect him. He said something to me the other day that made me laugh, but it's true. He said, Cayman is the only place in the world, okay, that we'll starve to death with money in our pockets.
Yeah.
Right?
Sadly, we say that.
So we have a lot of money here and a lot of entities here that are willing to do stuff, right? But we need to allow this to happen and allow things to happen to let us move forward. Okay, that's what that means. Normally people starve to death, they don't have any money. Right?
Maybe after the break, I'll leave it to you, because I think, James, your comments, as forthright and respectful as you've always been, some would hear that and say, wow, that's a glaring indictment on all of us, not just the regulatory process of RFRAC or other things, but that slow decision making. What you say, the paralysis in decision making, right? Maybe that's something that we need to look at. Is it a confidence issue, as you shared? Is it a competence issue? Is it just something else? Maybe at the break we can talk about it. But also, Kara, can we come back and figure out how we as consumers, they say we vote, with our wallets. We now need to figure out how do we drive, that sort of wagon so that we can get the governments on board for that level of security. After the break, we'll have the discussion, and if it's okay too, maybe at some point you guys can share with us some of the things that you've successfully grown so far, potential what you can grow, what you're considering, and I'll put it out there now. Kaldu, Cayman Kaldu, small stop, green one. I've only asked it a couple of times. Alright, stay tuned for Talk Today.
When you're craving something big, something tasty that gives you that lip-smacking satisfaction, something that hits the spot, there is nothing better than a footlong from Subway.
It's pretty tasty.
Filling and full of flavor. Try our new sweet onion steak teriyaki with a twist. Or the classic chicken teriyaki. Top it with green pepper, onions, cheese, and that sweet onion teriyaki sauce, all piled on your favorite artisanal bread. Satisfy that craving with a footlong from Subway.
Fresh, delicious, tasty, meaty.
Let's make it a meal with a drink, chips, and cookies. There is nothing better than a footlong from Subway.
Pirates Fest. A little bit of old, a little bit of new. The evolution of Cayman's Pirates. A little bit of fun for everyone. Grand Cayman festivities from November 10th through the 20th. 10 days, 33 events. From happy hour parties, cardboard boat races, the Trial of the Pirates, float parade, national song competition, pooch parades, races, fireworks. So many fireworks. Pirates Fest is here. 33 events, 10 days, November 10th through the 20th. Stay in the know. Get the full event lineup at piratesfestcayman.com.
Fire, raging through Church Street, bright and little Cayman, putting on some heat.
busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
Are you looking for a luxury handbag, wallet, and accessories? Then look no further. Visit Pena Leather Goods on 40 Wall Plaza on 8 Street in Georgetown and discover brands such as Longchamp, Kate Spade, Furla, and Ralph Lauren. Pena Leather Goods provides the most luxury leather goods for men and women, whether you are shopping for yourself or for a gift. We have what you need. Visit Pena Leather Goods on 40 Wall Plaza on 8 Street next to Victoria's Secret. While shopping, enjoy special offers in store. See you soon.
We think it's time you crossed over to a new vehicle. And with the Toyota Corolla Cross now at Vant Motors, you have plenty of reasons to make the switch. The crossover body and hybrid engine is a sleek design in a sturdy structure with a spacious interior that opens to extensive cargo space. Stuck in traffic? The high-performance self-charging hybrid system automatically switches between gas and electric vehicle mode, helping you lower both fuel costs and carbon emissions. The Corolla Cross has full LED lighting inside and out, an integrated display audio system with energy monitor, and a dual-zone climate control system to ensure comfort for all. Test drive the new Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid today at Vant Motors, Walkers Road.
60 and bossy with J and money. Win a trip in easy, trust me. Yeah. Come on, just send some money. I instant entry. Look how you're lucky. Bossy, J and money, bossy. J and money, send you go a yard. Teen, bossy, Jamaica well bossy. 60 and bossy. We well proudy.
Celebrate Jamaica 60 with J and money for a chance to win a dream vacation for two to Jamaica, including airfare, resort stay, and more. Send money for a chance to win. Your loved ones will also be entered for a chance to win a brand new car. Competition runs from now until December 24th. J and money 60 and bossy enough.
Call 345-945-2014 for details. Available at J and Money locations across the Cayman Islands.
Bossy, Jamaica well bossy. 60 and bossy.
No J and bank account required.
The offices of dermatologist Dr. Wayne Porter will be taking appointments from September 30th until October 8th at his Crew Road Clinic. Appointment slots are limited. Whether you're seeking advanced skincare, Botox, filler, cosmetic skin enhancements, or simply looking to reduce wrinkles, Dr. Porter offers a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. For more information, email dr.portercayman@gmail.com or call 946-9020 to book your appointment today. That is 946-9020.
For information that matters to you, the people. Hear from the government, the opposition, independents, and other experts on issues and solutions that affect you. For the record. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, tune into 89.9 and 93.9 FM for Cayman's Straight Talk Morning Show. For the record.
I invite you to join me for the record. You are invited to be a part of this interesting and informative show. Embrace the opportunity to dialogue with your legislators, policymakers, and those charged with policy implementation.
For the record.
Brought to you by Coca-Cola. Available across the Cayman Islands from Tortuga Distributors.
Accept no substitutes. Taste the feeling with Coca-Cola.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. As we're talking about innovation in farming, as I see it, and the excellent company, Mr. Carol Lawrence from Primitive Greens, Coda Whitaker, I think back in the day, the farm hand, like the operations manager for production technology and innovation. Would that be the new title?
Yeah, about that, yeah. Plenty of titles.
Yeah. But and I say that not only for a little laughter, but for people to appreciate that, as you shared, what you're doing in a farm is taking, what people would see as a farm, and melding technology and computing, utilizing, a space. I think James shared earlier, what could be akin to 150 acres into 1 acre, taking a 40-foot container and producing significant quality, cost-effective output. That's innovation.
Yeah. So to touch on that, the way we do that, we do something that's not really too innovative. It's been around for a while. It's called vertical farming. So traditional farming right now, you grow in a 2D space. So say you have an acre or so, and you're able to grow, say, 10,000 heads of lettuce on that 1 acre. Once you start vertical farming, you're able to grow, so basically like a shelf, you just add shelves and going up in a 3D space. So you're including height, and that's where you're able to get that type of number. So in a space of 1 acre, if you're doing 10,000 heads in traditional farming, if you add a shelf, you could do 20,000, add a third one, 30,000, and just keep going up like that. So that's where we're able to get that number. And then the controlled environment just provides a complete environment for all the produce that we're doing.
Well, sort of out of personal interest, but also out of particular sort of insight for our discussion, I had a look at similar operations globally, and I decided, well, we're probably more familiar with North America, so I looked at some of the stuff in Canada and some in the US, and I found what, according to what I read, what was abandoned warehouses in the US or disused spaces, and these things were growing strawberries all year round, growing different things. And I didn't walk through the space, virtually. There were static pictures, there were a few videos, but these were, vertical growing. 10-story building in Canada, I think it was, but this is happening.
Yeah. You'll see those big facilities in places where the energy level or the cost for energy is very, very low. So you see it in like the Midwest, rural areas where you're paying maybe 6, 7, 8, 9 cents per kilowatt hour. And that's where they're able to get that scale. Because even though they're burning a lot of energy, they can fill out the entire building.
And I appreciate you sharing that, because that was the one thing. Sometimes you say, well, what do you see in the picture? Well, what is it that you're not seeing? And knowing that, okay, their costs were lower for whatever reason they were utilizing, but there was a glaring absence of solar or renewable energy. So James, back to you. I don't know, well, last night was kind of hot and the sun had already set. This morning early, overcast, but it's hot. We get the sun all the time.
Yeah. Well, obviously we got a lot of solar radiation here in Cayman, and every time I drive by a building and I don't see solar panels on it, whether I put it on or somebody else put it on, it's a waste, right?
Yeah.
I think one of the key points that's being made with regards to this is that that solar is going to be used to grow all of this food, right? But that solar is also going to be used to make the whole business model viable, because again, going back to the resiliency piece, you can't have food security if it's not resilient. And so the good part about renewable energy in general, as opposed to, let's say, most fossil fuels, is that renewable energy is very democratizing. I can get piece of it, you can get piece of it, your listeners can have piece of it, Kerry and Cody can have piece of it, as opposed to sort of big, diesel, propane, centralized type of generation. And so with that comes extra resiliency. That facility can run itself in the event of another Hurricane Ivan coming through here, ensure that the country is pumping out food, because that solar in that microgrid system is running that facility until CUC builds the grid back again and things go back to normal. So it's not just about lowering the cost, although to Cody's point, it is a critical factor to lower the cost. I mean, we talk about wanting to compete against the 99% of imports, to Cody's point. Those people are paying 6 or 8 cents a kilowatt hour for energy US. We're paying almost 40 cents US a kilowatt hour. So we're paying magnitudes of order, much more cost in energy. And so if we want to compete against that produce, even though they have to ship it down from wherever it is, the fact that energy cost is so much less than ours, for us to make this viable, we need to have the cost lowered, and we need to have the resiliency.
Let me then ask something, because I think sometimes we see the political and we don't necessarily speak to it nor understand it. We hear the societal concerns and it becomes emotive, but the economic part is serious, but again, many times not spoken to properly. Now, I commend you, Mr. Lawrence, for saying, hey, government, we don't want any concessions that you may have granted elsewhere just yet. We want to show a level of independence and resilience and resolve. Your product is zero to minimum waste. Most people would expect, if you eat what's grown by the source, it's fresher and probably healthier. You're utilizing the technology, no herbicides, no pesticides, much better. So there seem to be a lot of wins, and I'm trying to think, well, where are the downs on this, right? As you do your cost benefit analysis, And I'm still trying to find those.
Where we have it, we're trying to find them as well. I mean, as it stands now, there really is no downsides, right? You're getting clean produce, healthy produce. You're getting clean energy. It's lowering the overall cost of living by lowering the cost of food, also helping to lower the cost of energy. Quite frankly, as I went back before, the only decision is, diesel's like 22 cents a kilowatt hour right now, something like that, and we're talking about half of that is what we want to be able to sell back the solar for. So there really, to our mind, is no downside. These are simply red tape and regulatory roadblocks to ultimately get this thing to scale up.
I mean, the other part of this we need to touch on too is we're bringing a different industry to Cayman, right? We're opening up new doors in this industry by offering to put these in the schools. I mean, we can put one of these in a prison, right? We can have them grow their own food, right? We can put it in the schools. We can teach these kids. They can come out. They can learn the technology. This technology, these farms cover the whole STEM program, right? Everything that you can think about in STEM, we cover that, right? And Cody can speak to that, but we cover all this stuff. And this is one of the things that we're opening up to our kids. Therefore, we can teach those children how to do this when they come out, carry them into different job bases, a job mine. And this is something else that I can do. I can get into farming. We can do this. You have to understand that farming is normally all around the world subsidized and losing business, right?
Right.
Technology is trying to change that, and therefore make more people want to farm and get into farming because we all need the food.
Yeah. Well, we've got a news break, and maybe Cody, when we come back, I'll ask you again about some of the farming process, because for many people, we still have a picture of either the farm, acres and acres, broad in sun. There may be some sort of shaded area depending on the product that we're trying to grow, or it may be this almost far-fetched, inaccessible thing that happens somewhere in some space, but it's experimental. You guys have demonstrated, carrier shade. We've been trying this out for a couple of years. We got it now. We know what it is. We just need to scale it up. But we need these things. Maybe when we break, we can talk about that. And then, James, come back to the hiccups, the little bureaucracy issues, and see if we can put that to rest. All right, the phone lines are open. You can call and share a thought. Hopefully you as not only enthused and engaged, but understanding the importance of being constructively involved. So 949-8037 or toll free at 1-800-534-8255. Please rejoin us right after the news.
From district to district, moving through the waters to Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Your station, your voice. All things Cayman. One radio, many people. This is home.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
The Royal Cayman Islands Police Protective Services investigate a stabbing that sent 2 people to the hospital Wednesday evening. A 29-year-old Bodentown woman is under arrest after an altercation with a man she knows. It happened in Belford Estates, Bodentown, just before 7 o'clock on Wednesday evening. The man and woman were both injured and received medical treatment. The woman has been released on bail. Anyone with information regarding the incident is encouraged to call the Bodentown Police Station at 947-2220. Alternatively, anonymous tips may be submitted at rcips.ky. In international headlines, the mayor of Kiev says new air defense equipment has arrived in the capital and is expressing hope it will protect the city's energy infrastructure after weeks of targeted Russian airstrikes. Kiev's mayor says the Ukrainian capital's power grid has been operating in emergency mode, with electricity supplies down by as much as 50% compared to pre-war levels. Authorities say Kiev and the surrounding region will see rolling blackouts in the coming days. 8 members of a single family, 6 of them children, are found in a burning Oklahoma home. And now police in Broken Arrow are investigating the deaths as a murder-suicide, with both adults considered suspects. The children, who ranged in age from 1 to 13, were the victims. A massive lottery jackpot got a little bigger today as the top Powerball prize climbed to an estimated $825 million ahead of Saturday night's drawing. The Powerball jackpot ranks as the fifth largest in U.S. history. However, the size is due to the fact that no one has hit all six numbers since August 3rd. That is 36 consecutive draws without a jackpot winner. Those are your headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom. I'm April Cummings.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon, welcome back, and thanks for sharing. And if you wish to weigh in and have a comment or question as we look at, not just new industry and innovation, but in particular that idea that we can have sustainable farming that creates food security. Cody Whitaker, Carol Lawrence from Primitive Farms, together with James Whitaker. I think the community has styled you the resident expert on solar. What do you think, James? Fitting? Yeah. I think so.
Maybe. Yeah.
But once we have this continued discussion and once we recognize, now as we get into the discussion specifically in this last half hour on farming and the importance of it, James, let me just ask. There was once a perception that we needed the sun, the actual light and the like to generate the solar power. I'm told that's not the case. It's not the light necessarily, it's the heat, or it's the heat, or it's not the light. What is it?
No, it's the solar radiations. From a solar perspective, it's the solar radiation. The heat is really about solar thermal, things like hot water. But for solar panels, it is about the solar radiation itself that produces the power. The various light spectrums go into a solar cell, and that produces the energy. So, from a solar perspective, people say, one of the old perceptions, not old perception, but one of the old sayings is that the sun only shines during the day. And that's going to be true for our farm. The sun is only shining during the day. But we're storing enough during the day that we also store enough, we use enough during the day that we also store enough in the batteries for nighttime and for backup use. And so with technology today, this whole idea of intermittent power, dispatchable power, and firm power, you need a lot of renewables so that you don't have to run those diesel gensets and those thermal assets as much. You want those to be backup and infilling as much as possible. So as you get high levels of renewable energy penetration from projects like this, from solar farms, from rooftops, from parking lots, all of these resources end up getting managed by your utility, and they choreograph that energy use, right? And so with this solar farm, it's just one more valuable asset that they will have as an energy source that is feeding that energy into the grid. And as again, it doesn't have to be firm power. There are levels where you can have a certain amount of intermittency, a certain amount of dispatchability, and a certain amount of firm power.
All right. And we'll pick that discussion up later because, as you were sharing about the sun only shining, during the day, I think that makes that proposal to go to the sun at night that much more palatable. But the Cody, again, my attempt at being a stand-up comedian probably fails. But what for the public? And we had a listener asking, "Hey, tomorrow's the West Bay Heritage Day. Are you selling any of your greens down there?" Yeah, I think your stuff is only available in the supermarkets now, right?
Supermarkets and in some of the restaurants.
Yeah, primitive greens, right? And they're not primitive by any nature, but very, very, very industrious in your approach. What are you farming? Is that the right word to use?
Yeah, so right now I'm just growing. We're focused on the leafy greens. I'm doing romaine, red leaf lettuce, green leaf lettuce, butterhead lettuce, and things like that. So we do have a few trials of like arugula here and there, some edible flowers as well.
Carrots.
Yeah, carrots, radishes, beets. But our primary focus right now is leafy greens because that's what's best right now for what we're doing in a cost-effective manner.
I think the public is probably more aware of that sort of produce, and that one with the red in it that I tend to get sometimes a little bit bitter. Yours wasn't that bitter.
Yeah, so the oak leaf lettuce kind of has like a woodsy taste to it. When you usually get it in a grocery store, it's old, and they usually have the same type of taste.
Okay. Can I ask then, this, God's willing, you get to where you want to go and the vision is there. what other things could you potentially grow?
Our primary focus, once we get to where we want to be, is berries. So the thing hindering berries right now is basically the energy. Because to grow, say, one strawberry, it's going to cost me 2-3 months worth of electricity compared to where I'm growing lettuce. So with berries and fruits in general, you have to plant the seed, wait for the plant, wait for it to flower, and then wait to get the fruit. And the fruit is the only viable portion of the strawberry. You can't eat the plant, you can't necessarily eat the flower, you won't get the fruit. But with lettuce, once you plant the seed, what you get is what you take out. So there's minimal waste, and the timeline to grow that is a lot shorter. So when you're spreading out your costs, it's a lot easier to focus on the leafy greens. But once you get the cost down, then we can go into things like strawberries.
See, and this is where I think, as we look at the melding of costs, you're innovative, and there's that entrepreneurial spirit. There's the encourage you more and more in new industry. But then we need to be able to make it cost effective. And I know some people who say, well, they have an acre of land, they can develop into a commercial or residential space, and they'll make a lot of money. Yep. But you're looking at it and saying, well, how is this thing sustainable? How is this thing contributing to national security? Water, as I alluded to earlier, has always been this thing that we heard farmers saying, if I have good soil and good, clean, accessible water, there's not much good.
Yeah, so access to water is vital. So I believe agriculture worldwide takes up about 90% of the world's water, just by farming. And a lot of that water, without a hydroponic system, is going into the soil and then seeping down. So then you always have to replenish it. With hydroponic farming, you're basically recirculating the water, reusing the water. So actually in our systems, we maybe use about 5 gallons of water a day. And during the daytime when the lights are on, the plants will release moisture into the atmosphere, and we have a dehumidifier that takes in that water and puts it back into the tank. Okay. And it's especially on the hotter days, the tank will get so full I have to empty it out, or the water would be all over the floor. So we're actually water positive. So with things like that, we have emptied out water and thrown it into different areas of the garden because it is fertile water.
No, I'm not a scientist. I always enjoy reading, and I understand that hydrogen, one of the byproducts is water, as always, right? You're telling me, if I heard you correctly, farming, as I have gathered, you take a lot of water to water your plants, even in your garden. In your case, you're not only, producing your own water, but the excess water that you have, you're water positive. I like how you phrase that.
Water positive.
Yeah. we actually have to find stuff to do with the extra water that we produce. So that's another key point to what Cody's saying is with traditional farming, they like to be up in East End on the water lanes where they actually have access to the water and whatnot. Here, we actually produce more water than we need. So, we don't use the natural water sources in Cayman. We basically pull it from the humidity.
So if you can imagine, say, this type of technology is best for urban areas, so you'll find them in literally like a parking lot. You fill it up with water once, you probably won't have to fill it up again. So what we do probably about every 6 or 7 months, we'll empty out the water and put in fresh water again. That's just for safety. But if you're just growing for the whole year, you wouldn't need any water.
And I was just, forgive me, I mean, this, probably one of the things when you have a family that encourages you to think, this could be one of the side effects of it. But just thinking out loud, going on the premise that you have a huge production and you have excess water, depending on how much water that is, that water could potentially be put through a process that becomes potable. It not only could be used for other agriculture uses, but it could be used potentially even for drinking.
With that, I don't think maybe it's possible, but that's not something we can do. But the same technology can kind of be applied to your thinking.
I say that from a reading way back when, and Israel, to my knowledge, is an urban area, probably more desert, but they've created an oasis, and I watched where they were utilizing technology, and going on the premise that because it's on TV, it's true. Here's the scientist taking water that he said, don't touch that water. In fact, don't stand too close. It doesn't smell well. Here's a system that we're using to put that water through. Here's the outcome. I'm going to drink some, and you, the reporter, you're welcome to try it if you want. And you can see the hesitation in the reporter going, well, he drank it, but I got look bad on TV. And he says, is this the same thing? And the fellow made him follow the pipe in and going through it. And what was, just to make a little black and white, here's the object here, and here's it on the other side. So that's why I was thinking that potential, not necessarily that would be what you want. But if your output and waste, James, is water, and that water can be used to fertilize other places, that'd be better than a chemical sort of runoff into a stream.
I would absolutely agree with you 100%. Like I said, just purely from an environmental standpoint, I mean, there really is no real downsides. You're compressing, agricultural land from, as I said, 150 acres down into 1 acre. From an energy perspective, you're not using any more fossil fuels. You're using, 100% renewable energy. And on top of that, you're helping to lower the cost of living by pumping, clean energy at less than the cost of diesel back into the grid. There really is no environmental downsides to this type of farming.
Right.
Not to say that there's no impacts, but there's certainly no net impacts. And we would actually expect the operations to be net carbon neutral.
Right.
So in other words, I think we would offset more emissions by far than we actually use. So we would expect it to be net zero carbon as well. So from an environmental standpoint, you really couldn't get a much more innovative project than Primitive Greens.
So let me then ask, and perhaps first with James, as a budding economist as well, right? We hear many times government trying to incentivize industry, trying to incentivize the development of a particular area, just globally speaking, in sort of the Western democracies. Phrase like that's a depressed economic area. Let's see what we can encourage industry, housing, and the like. We see the use of concessions on the Cayman scale and in the Cayman context. Some would probably listen and say, well, why doesn't government just do this in order to get it going? But James, to you, that's a cost to the country. So if government does something, subsidizes, for as an example, the cost so that it's not comparable to the cost of the imported product, that money that government would give, not that's been asked for, and that's why I commend you, that money then is money that cannot be used for housing, schools, roads, and other things. There is that opportunity cost.
So again, from Primitive's perspective, this costs the government nothing, and in fact, the government gets something out of it, right? So it's not a cost to government, it's a benefit to government. And when I say a cost, again, there's no subsidies in this. We're not asking for any funding for it. We're selling the energy at less than the cost of the existing diesel. And then, if you're getting lower cost food, higher quality food, and you're getting lower cost energy and clean energy, that helps to bring down the cost of living. So to me, that's a benefit to the government, to the country, to the people, as opposed to being a cost to the people.
We're told, and I believe, Ms. Susan, is that the final break that we have to take? But we're told that when people eat healthier foods, have healthier lifestyles, there's not only improved quality of life, but there decreased costs from medical costs, cost of lost productivity. So if you're putting foods on the shelves that are cheaper to purchase, better quality, taste better and healthier, then there are increased benefits from a society.
I mean, I guess you look at it this way. Who in Cayman would not want to buy fresher greens and berries cheaper than importing it with no chemical sprays whatsoever that was picked that day or the day before?
Just thinking, as you go into the next break, to my friends Arnold and Peter King, who would not want more berries other than just in Button Town? Just thinking. All right, let's pause and take that break. When we come back, more talk today.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
When you're craving something big, something tasty that gives you that lip-smacking satisfaction, something that hits the spot, there is nothing better than a footlong from Subway.
It's pretty tasty.
Filling and full of flavor. Try our new sweet onion steak teriyaki with a twist. Or the classic chicken teriyaki. Top it with green pepper, onions, cheese, and that sweet onion teriyaki sauce. All piled on your favorite artisanal bread. Satisfy that craving with a footlong from Subway.
Fresh, delicious, tasty, meaty.
Let's make it a meal with a drink, chips, and cookies. There is nothing better than a footlong from Subway.
And the whole island is one big, big party, party, party.
Little Cayman, the 2022 Pirates Fest season starts with you. November 4th through the 6th with the official kickoff at McCoy's Sunset Bar, Friday the 4th, followed by the float parade. 3 p.m. on the 5th, starting from Southern Cross, costume competition, fireworks show, and don't forget about the Pirates Party at the Hungry Iguana. You know them pirates like a little party, Little Cayman style. Little Cayman Pirates Fest, November 4th through the 6th.
Freedom, Cayman Brack. Freedom, Little Cayman. Soft breezes, blue waters, no traffic. Unwind and rejuvenate your mind, body, and soul. Sister Island Staycations, a taste of freedom. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon. As we talk about, innovation of farming, Carol Lawrence with Quarter Vitico with primitive greens, and there is an expert for solar, the public advocate for renewable energy, James Whitaker. I say that hopefully people hear it with the level of deference that's intended, because over the years we've had discussions on it. The idea that we need to look from the idea of cost effectiveness, but security. How do you have energy security? I think Carrie's point to the joke that a friend made, it is something that we repeat all the time, but is as serious as anything else. We could be, willing to starve debt with all the money in our bank.
Yeah. One of the things I would like to touch on here is that with this project, we intend to be totally sustainable for the country. We intend to supply all that we can for the country to make sure that we have the food security with this project. Just to give you an idea of what we have here, right now we have about 39,000 plants, right? Going right now, 39,000. When it comes to our seeds, we bring in our seeds. We buy our seeds, 50,000, 100,000 seeds at a time to make sure we have an abundance of seeds, right? And they're all organic seeds. Right, we don't bring in anything that's not organic. It's a lot of research, and we develop relationships through this to make sure that we delivering a product to the community that is clean, fresh, and healthy. Right, that is the things that we decide that this is what needs to happen here. Okay, you have to understand, when you spray chemicals and stuff like that on a plant, I feel it diminishes the plant and diminishes yourself, because you have to eat it, right? And it's often unfortunate, for a long time you haven't had any other choices but to import those stuff that was sprayed and stuff like that, and everybody know that they're sprayed, but you don't have a choice, right? So we intend to give people a choice here in the healthy food. We intend to reach out to the community and help our needy here, that such as like the food bank. Cody's working with the food bank now to see if we can get them what they need to be able to supply who they supply with food, with a healthy product, a good fresh product. So he's been working now to get that done for them. And I would really love to see these in the schools, and get some maybe in the prison, to make sure that we can help and carry our people in this direction, because this is somewhere that we need to be, and we shouldn't be waiting on this. And the reason why is because we tend to wait on things here and be the last to do things, and I keep saying that, we're the last place in the world to do stuff, and I'm tired of Cayman and Caymanians being last. Let's be first, and let's do something for the country. Let's make a difference. And this is the project I believe that can make a difference here, and there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to do it. Now, we've been getting support from the government. All the government people, I think, besides 3, came and looked at the project, and we walked and feel through the project. The governor looked at the project. We gave them an overview, and this is what we want to do. This is where that. Can you tell me any negatives of it? And it has fallen into this food sustainability and nutrition policy now that the Agriculture Department and government is circling right now. So if you read through that, and you read through the bases that we are touching on, we touch all those bases, and we touch where we need to be with that, right? And even off regs policy, we touch all of that stuff also, right? So we've covered all those bases. We've never left any stones unturned, and we're here now, right? And we're just trying to get over that red tape to get this thing moving and to get going.
Let me ask, and if it's an opportune time to answer, if not, please circle back and revisit and share it. We were familiar with it from what you shared, either through the purchases in the supermarkets, from what we had in the restaurants where it's available. We understand the quality. We hopefully by now gathered the importance of eating, quality foods. With the scale you're on, and in the absence, well, let me be very direct. If this red tape isn't removed and you're not able to get where you are, sort of proposing to go, what happens next?
I'm not going to stop, but the thing is that I'm not going to be able to provide it cheaper, right? Way cheaper than it could be. So I'm cheaper than the imported product now, but I want to be cheaper, way cheaper. That can then that you can feel it when you go buy it in the store. Right now lettuce is selling for about $7, I think, a head. They're at $6.99, maybe it is. We want to be cheaper than that. Way cheaper, right? Because there's no reason for it to be that high, right? I mean, there is a reason for that to be that high because of travels and everything else. On top of that, I mean, the food shortages, and for us to think anyway that we can go to another country and source out different countries to bring stuff in from and call that food sustainability or food security, to me it's a fallacy, because your food sustainability and your food stability is the things that you have here on this island.
I mean, think about it, and just from the political but also the economic sort of historical perspective, an operation is in another country, and for whatever reason, perhaps under the guise of national security, that country's government decides this particular operation needs to remain in the hands of its people. The government needs to have oversight. Maybe their exports are restricted, not unlike what we've seen now as a result of what's transpiring in Europe. You can get some things, but only a limited supply.
Exactly. And we want to be able to supply that to the island here. We want to be able to educate our people on it. We want to be able to produce a safe, clean product, right? And we want you to know that it's done here and it's done in a safe manner, and it's good for you here, right? It's not something that's overly sprayed with pesticides and herbicides and all this other stuff. And we want to be able to take care of the people and find ways in which we have already find ways to take care of people that need this product, that can't basically afford it or need assistance with it. Okay, well, we can assist you in this manner.
As you mentioned, the food banks and other things.
Yes.
I think the important point to touch on, like what Kerry was talking about, is yes, one is the cost, and we want to be able to bring the cost down as well, but the other thing too is the scale, right? It's one thing for us to, plant some plants in a few containers. It's another thing for us to be able to supply the whole island with what they need.
Yes.
Right, so I mean, we want you to be able to walk into Foster's and go to any restaurant and have primitive greens on the menu or have it on the shelves. And to do that at scale, you're going to need staff, you're going to need facilities, you're going to need all of the things that a big operation requires. And so, part of it is we definitely want to do it at less than the cost of the imported stuff, but we also have to basically do it at a scale that we can really and truly supply the whole island. The supermarkets and the buyers aren't going to be comfortable cutting off their resources for what they're importing if they don't have confidence that you can deliver 100% of this product.
And that is a hurdle that we had to cross, and I think we are over that hurdle now with the supermarkets to get there to where we need to be.
Well, I'm hoping that we can have continued discussions, not just to encourage innovation, perhaps to encourage entrepreneurship. And as we close our discussion, I'll start with you first, Cody. One of the things we want to ask, if you touch on the idea of the STEM component, because we see that perhaps through the schools and the farming initiatives, we can introduce children into future careers, but get them to appreciate that there isn't just that traditional picture of the farmer, up before the sun, out in the broiling sun. There's that, but there is more.
Yeah, so it's basically to change the image of what younger people think is farming, and to also make it a money-making business for them. So usually you're thinking of your farmer, you're thinking minimum wage, unless you're at scale. And we want, when you introduce technology, we want to bring in an aspect of it where it is, if somebody's interested in, plant science, maybe biology and environmental science or something like that, that they can go away to school, study what they study, and come back and say, okay, there's a place for me to go who's doing what I want to do. And that's basically what we're trying to get into with the whole STEM program, because it covers a whole different variety of things on the farming side, but also the technology side with computer science, engineering, chemistry, physics. All of that is covered in basically this 320 square foot area.
You know what? And James, to you, I want to read. Let me pull it back up here. I'll just read it as it is, right? It says, very admirable what Primitive Greens creating. The need for renewables understood for their business model to keep costs down. However, we saw the disaster that has been created with the deregulation of telecoms space with multiple players in terms of customer service and quality of their product/service. What guarantees, if any, would your panel suggest to offer such risk, or to offset such risk, given the lifespan of solar panels?
If I understand it correctly, it sounds like a question related to around monopolies. And then
should we discuss that next week, Friday?
Panels. Yeah, I mean, I'll just give a very brief answer. I would say that I certainly would argue that competition is better than monopolies. So purely from the liberalization of the IT sector, I think that's a good thing. And if you want to improve that, probably more competition is better than less competition, just as a general rule.
We can't look at Primitive Greens either as competition towards the energy provide also, right? This is a project that has nothing to do with that. It's a project to do clean energy, cheaper product, for better food.
And the other reality is too is that that the whole idea of creating an industry around commercial farming doesn't mean that only Primitive Greens can do it. I mean, Primitive Greens is going to do what they're going to do is at the scale that they're going to do it. But if we create this as an industry, that doesn't mean that other players can't come in. It's not Primitive isn't getting any exclusivity from government. We're just simply asking for an approval from the regulators so that we can move our project forward.
All right. Well, the invitation stands not only to promote agriculture and innovation, but hopefully to follow the story as it develops, and hopefully there'll be an immediate successful outcome that benefits the community and the consumer. Mr. Lawrence, any final thoughts you may want to leave?
Well, Sterling, thanks for having us here. I'd just like to thank the government with the support that they've given thus far, Agriculture Department for the support that they've given this far with the project, looking at it, seeing it. Hopefully we see it forward to the end and make this thing happen. And I'll also like to thank the consumers who support us and the restaurants. Thank you very much for supporting Primitive Greens. We appreciate it very much.
And gents, let me invite you to have a very enjoyable, a very safe weekend. God's willing, James, we'll come back next week and have a discussion and hopefully start to appreciate the landscape in which we live and move things forward in a positive way.
Thanks for inviting us.
All right. And to our listeners, it's a Friday. West Bay Heritage Day is tomorrow. Next Friday, it's East End. So let's enjoy. And you know what? Maybe let's ask for more Primitive Greens so we can have that safe, clean, zero waste, energy, independent, tasty, nutritious, delicious foods on our plate that make us healthy. Have a blessed weekend. God's willing. Join me, Stuart, for the record Monday morning and come back for Talk Today right after the midday news. Until then, be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331.
Talk Today is proudly brought to you by Pirates Fest 2022. Stay in the know. Get the full event lineup at piratesfestcayman.com.
And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village. Convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays.
46 years.
3 beloved isles.
1 beloved station, Radio Cayman.
The voice.
The heart.
The soul.